I really should have bourbon for today's show, guys. I should. Welcome. Good to have you here. The glasses come on, the glasses come off. Got a very, very full day, including a great interview with William Jacobson, Cornell law professor, about some lawsuits he's engaged against the state of New York, which are, you have to sue to fight the DEI bigotry. You have to fight and fight aggressively. He's doing a great job of it. And also a discussion of anti-Semitism on the Cornell and other campuses, just what he's seeing as a professor. This socialist in Indianapolis, incredible. But we should really start with what's going on with the Houthi rebels. And we'll do that as the radio show comes in right now, guys. Good to see you. The Biden administration is admitting that though they've taken hits at the Houthi rebels, they haven't actually hit the Houthi rebels. Oh, they've hit a stronghold here. Oh, they've hit a place there. But in terms of actually doing damage and stopping these Iran-based terrorists or these Iran-supported terrorists, it hasn't worked out. They haven't done enough. So they're going to engage more attacks. Tony Katz today. What's going on, everybody? Find everything at TonyKatz.com. Be a part of what we're doing over there. I'd greatly appreciate it. Become a supporter. The problem for Joe Biden is that he can't look his own party in the eye, never mind Republicans in the eye, regarding how to handle this. Republicans will wonder why this didn't start a couple months ago when the Houthi rebels thought that they were in charge of the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, because that's what the Biden administration allowed to happen. One should ask why. How did this come to be? The Houthi rebels, Houthi, that's how you spell it. You pronounce it Houthi. They have been involved in a proxy war between Iran and Saudi Arabia for years, funded by Iran. This can be seen as a Sunni Shia fight. We're talking about different views on Islam. This can be viewed in a multiplicity of ways. But Iran has been backing the Houthi rebels, and there has been nonstop civil war in Yemen. These same Houthi rebels are not some cave dwellers. And I think that there is still this mentality that exists that somehow our enemy in the Middle East, or radical Islamists, jihadists, are Osama bin Laden living in caves or living in squalor, whatever the case may be. The people who fund these things, well, they don't live in those places. They live like kings. They're billionaires. But the training of their people is legit. When you see the videos of the Houthi rebels and how they're able to take cargo ships, they helicopter in, they're well armed, they are prepared, they're going in tactically. The days of somehow them being this ragtag group of misfits, that's over. Now, that is not to say they can't be defeated by a United States military totally willing and committed to going in and solving the problem. Of course they can. They stand no chance against the United States military that is committed and has the willpower to get the job done. That, of course, being foreshadowing to whether or not today's U.S. military, or I should say military leadership, has that willpower. The Secretary of Defense can be absent without leave in surgery, not inform the President of the United States, his boss, and still keep his job. And it gives you an idea of some of the problems that we're having. The Houthi rebels, after watching Hamas's attack on October 7th of Israel, the murder of 1,200, the raping of women, the burning alive of children, people forget. I don't plan on forgetting at all. They have engaged in missile attacks against American interests, missile attacks against Israeli interests. You've had missiles from the Houthi rebels shot down by the U.S., by Israel and its Iron Dome, and by Saudi Arabia. Then the Houthi rebels decided that what they could do is take control of what we could describe as the navigable seas. Hey, you're sending a tanker or a cargo ship through the Red Sea, and then you're going to come across underneath Yemen and the Gulf of Aden and then get into the Indian Ocean. Now we're going to take that ship. Oh, we're going to target you. We're going to hit you with a missile. We're going to attack. They have hit U.S. ships. They have hit Greek ships. They have commandeered ships and hold people hostage. And Joe Biden allowed this to happen. Now, that may be seen by some as an unbelievable rudeness. How dare you blame this on Joe Biden? Oh, well, if you feel that is somehow rude, allow me to say it this way. This is because of Joe Biden. The seas are not up for debate, which is why we here have been discussing for years that we do not have a U.S. Navy that is up to snuff. You need 340 ships. I think that is the accurate number, and we are not there. And when you see things that happen to ships in dock and in being repaired, like the the Bonhomme Richard, this fire that got set intentionally a few years back, destroying this ship and really hurting us at sea. The need to build ships, the need to repair ships, the need to be prepared has never been greater. You can fight with an air force that is all drone. You can even engage with an army to a level that has technology at play. You must put men on ships and ships at sea in order for the goods to get from point A to point B. They cannot get there on the internet. The internet is good for a lot of things. But if you're looking for toilet paper, it doesn't get delivered from the internet. You actually need the roll. I didn't mean to be crude, but sometimes you gotta deliver it directly. The navigable seas are not up for debate. Enter Joe Biden. You have a tax on these ships and you do nothing. Less than nothing. You believe that you can negotiate it out. You believe that you can negotiate it through. Who are you negotiating with? The Houthi rebels? The Iran-backed Houthi rebels? When you think that you can negotiate these people, with whom do you think you are negotiating? What settlement, what understanding was it possible to think you were going to get? But what else would you expect from the people who entered back into the Iranian nuclear deal, known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action? How dare Donald Trump get us out of this? He was going to bring us to the brink of war. He doesn't understand peace. I'm not even a Trump guy, and I know that's just crap. These leftists who come from the Obama tree believe somehow, against every bit of evidence, that Iran can be reasoned with. Iran are the people that we should be connected with and not Saudi Arabia. I would say it a bit differently. Saudi Arabia is clearly the nation we should be connected with, but we should have punched Saudi Arabia in the face for September 11th. People should have suffered. Then they could have been our friend. We could have the same relationship we have with them today, but we could have said to the prince, you allowed training to happen. You allowed conversations to take place. Pick 8 members of the royal family. They're gone. You pick them. You pick them. They're gone. That's the price you pay. Now, some people would have liked to have bombed Saudi Arabia out of existence. I get that understanding. And I personally will never forgive George W. Bush for not being tougher. I will never, ever forgive it. Because if you had been tougher, which would have been the right thing to do, we'd still be at this moment. And you would still want to be partnered with Saudi Arabia over Iran if those are your choices. The Obama administration and the Obama acolytes never, ever wanted this plan, never wanted this philosophy, never wanted any part of it. They believed that Iran was the linchpin, the key, and somehow... Should I argue? Is there an argument to be made that they kind of liked Iran? I don't understand it. But they pitched the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. They lied. They created the echo chamber. Ben Rhodes and others did this. And when Joe Biden got into office after Donald Trump got us out of the JCPOA, which was a terrible plan, and Trump was right, it was Biden jumping back in. So now you got to attempt to have some kind of agreement with the Houthi rebels, with Iran, talk to them to show, see, we were right from the beginning. Look how we brought them to the table. Posturing is not policy. For those of you playing the home game, let me say it again. Posturing is not policy. Never has been. Policy is policy. And the policy is when a group of no good, whatever you want to call them, thinks they can take over the Red Sea, you bomb them out of existence. That's a policy. Write that down. Tony's policies. Whenever I run for office, remind me of my policies. I'll be like, oh yeah, that's a good one. We're totally going to do that. The administration then engaged with the United Kingdom these bombing raids in Yemen on the Houthis and certain select targets. Now, I'm not a fan of select targets. I am not a fan of this idea of pinpoint warfare. It makes no sense to me. In the same way that counterinsurgency strategy makes no sense to me. Counterinsurgency strategy is this idea that somehow we were going to go into Iraq or go into Afghanistan and win hearts and minds. You can't win hearts and minds. You can't win hearts and minds in non-Western civilizations. I mean, you've proven it. That there's nothing bigoted or hateful about what I said. I'm saying it can't be done. And there were plenty of Afghans who were supportive of the United States and helpful. Those are the people that Joe Biden left to die when he engaged that withdrawal. He left those people to die. But there are cultural differences at play with nations in the Middle East and Western civilization that simply are incompatible. They are incongruent. You can't win hearts and minds. You have to go about it differently. It's like the very concept of humility. When Barack Obama was president, he did this tour, right? The world tour conversation, and within that, he was apologizing for U.S. might. In the U.S., a conversation like that might be seen as a dose of humility, and that is seen as a virtue, and it could be seen as a virtue in Western civilization. In other cultures, it's seen as weakness, and that should then be pounced upon. If you don't understand with whom you're speaking, how in the world could you possibly speak to them properly? How could you engage properly? How could you ever have a sound policy? The pinpoint idea is, well, we're going to hit this target, but we're going to make sure no civilians are around. We're going to make sure no this is around. Make sure no that is around. I think to the extent possible, you try your very best to limit the number of casualties. That makes perfect sense to me. It also makes perfect sense to me that sometimes you have to hit the target wherever the target is. They put their stores, their weapon stores in Gaza, for example, underneath hospitals and underneath schools. You can't hit those targets. No. It's a school there. Why would anybody defend these terrorists who use children as shields? Right? Israel uses missiles to protect their children. Hamas uses children to protect their missiles. That's the difference between the two cultures. One is better than another. But the idea that the strike doesn't take place because somebody with a hashtag has decided that that's too violent, sometimes the strike has to take place. I don't want it to happen, but it has to happen. So the idea of this pinpoint warfare, you have to hit the target, but only this and only that, and otherwise you can't do this. No. Sometimes the target must be hit. So I don't want to hear that when we're dealing with the Houthi rebels that we have to pinpoint the thing. I think we have to cause a lot of damage. And you know who else thinks this? The Houthi rebels, because they have not stopped going after ships. This was CENTCOM. That's Central Command. Talking about a third ship. On January 18th, and I'm reading from CENTCOM on X, at approximately 9 p.m., Iranian-backed Houthi terrorists launched 2 anti-ship ballistic missiles at the Chem Ranger, a Marshall Island-flagged, U.S.-owned, Greek-operated tanker ship. The crew observed the missile impact the water near the ship. There were no reported injuries or damage to the ship. The ship has continued underway. The next one will be a direct hit. The strikes against the Houthi rebels have not worked. So now, what's the plan? The plan from the administration, when asked by a reporter, are the airstrikes in Yemen working? The president said, well, when you say working, are they stopping the Houthis? And he said, President Biden said no. Are they going to continue? Yes. Continue how? In the same way? The Houthi rebels can handle this. The Houthi rebels can overcome this. I don't think we're at the point yet where we have to go to Congress and declare war. And there are plenty of progressives who won't do it because they're fine with the Houthi rebels, because the Houthi rebels are actually helpful to the Hamas cause in the ending of Israel. And this is exactly why the foreshadowing now coming to the fore, why it is Joe Biden didn't act earlier. Because acting earlier against the Houthi rebels would have been seen as support for Israel. And Joe Biden couldn't do that. Don't tell me about his words. Oh, he's spoken so strongly in favor of Israel. Stop it. Words are cheap. Words don't mean anything. Take a look at the divorce rate, proving my point. Action matters. And Joe Biden didn't want to be seen as taking an action that might be seen as supportive of Israel. Not because I said so, but because as you play it out on the ground, the reality shows you. The Houthi rebels have to be dealt with. But the reality is Iran has to be dealt with. And I don't think the country's ready for that. But they better get ready for that. Because Iran, on two fronts, are starting a war. And wait till you see what they're going to try and do with a porous southern border. I'm Tony Katz, and this is Tony Katz Today. Welcome back. I love it when you catch me mid cough. That's how I know I'm a professional. When I'm caught mid cough, it's like, okay, that's fine. Can I tell you, I got a haircut, but look at this right there, and look at what's, and it's too short anyway. And I don't know. I don't think it's the person. I think it's me. I don't think I'm asking for this properly. I think I need a change. I gotta do something. Figure it out. Don't forget to head over to TonyKatz.com and be a part of what we're doing over there. Look, I got a little thing. See, it shouldn't say just TonyKatz.com now. It doesn't have to be the locals thing. It's just Tony Katz. Just that easy. And one of the two books, Let's Go Bourbon. Look at that. Look at that right there. The bourbon reader you've always needed. Also, Let's Go BBQ. Recipes, tips, and tales from the pit. Both those books available at Amazon.com. Carl running the board today. Carl is usually the producer of my morning show. And today he's rocking the midday. How much time do we have, Carl? 60 seconds. I can do that. I can absolutely do that. I got a series of things that I want to get to. This government spending bill has got people crazy and angry, and they have no one to blame but themselves. No one to blame but themselves. So I've got some Chip Roy audio, the congressman from New York, to discuss about that. And then there was this about the border. I'm gonna go grab this right here. When Democrats are coming around left and right to a recognition that the border is a serious problem, and they're speaking out now. And I am convinced that the only reason that they're doing that is because they don't think Biden's going to be around. That's my take. Let's come back. A government spending bill. It has been passed. There will be no shutdown. The government spending bill, approved by the Senate and approved by the House, and it has House Republicans just absolutely angry as can be.
Madam Speaker, the American people are tired of getting a complete lack of representation from their representatives. Nobody in this country looks at Congress and says, wow, heck of a job, guys and gals. Well done. Who would do that? Would we do that? By the way, it does not matter who's sitting in the speaker's seat or who's got the majority. We keep doing the same stupid stuff. Now, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle have no problem with wide open borders endangering the people that I represent. None. And my constituents are the ones left holding the bag, and the people of Texas are the ones left spending $12.5 billion. And my people are the ones who have 6 kids die from fentanyl poisoning in the school district that I represent.
I don't doubt any of it. He is absolutely correct in the idea that we have a porous, despicable border and we're letting kids die. But when you're angry that there wasn't anything to border funding, you're not alone. It's that you did not create a strategy that gets the win. You have 2 choices, Congressman Roy. Total intransigence, shut the mother down, or incrementalism, which involves having a larger majority and getting small wins over time. Trying to grab what you can, taking what you can get, then after it passes, coming back and doing it again. It's like you've learned nothing from the left. And I don't like being angry at Congressman Roy. It's just I'm tired of these talking points. His constituents are not a talking point. His idea that we just don't get this done is a talking point. You don't have enough Republicans to engage the intransigence conversation. Instead, you got the same exact thing you got if Kevin McCarthy had been Speaker of the House. But now you've got, 3 less members of Congress, 3 less Republicans? You got rid of Santos. Kevin McCarthy, he just flat up quit. You Republicans figure it out. You didn't want me? Blank you and your Meemaw, is what Kevin McCarthy said, and he resigned. You could have kept McCarthy. You could have kept more political capital by not having this mess that Matt Gaetz put the Republican Party in. And I prove that because nothing has changed. So therefore, it didn't do anything. And for those of you who yelled at me because I said we didn't have a plan going in, there was no plan. This wasn't a plan. This was a mistake. The proof is Chip Roy talking about what's happened where no more money is going to the border. The proof is in the reality. Pick your poison. Which way do you want to go? Do you want to go intransigence, which I have no problem with? Shut the mother down. Or do you want to go with incrementalism and then win elections, build yourself a larger majority, then have the ability to do it the way you want to do it? I don't care how, but pick one. Right now, there's no plan, and changing speakers didn't help. So I don't want to hear about no confidence votes or motions to vacate. That's crazy. It is. It is just absolutely nuts. We take the break because remember, we do it with the radio show, guys. So we're connected with radio. And then I'll come back with the interview with William Jacobson, Cornell law professor. I will play that for you. Hopefully I'll be able to do it right. We're still learning our way through. We're still learning our way through the live stream. And Sarah, who runs all our digital, is totally convinced she can produce the show with everything else she does. I just don't know if that should be. I am not convinced. And it's not about Sarah's skill set. Sarah's wicked smart and very, very good at this. It's about where we put our time. It's about where we put our time. And I'm not so sure that I want her on the producing side as much as I want her on the other stuff. We're gonna have to talk about it because she may want to produce it because it's fun. We'll be right back. Keep it here. So we're going to give this a try. I spoke with William Jacobson. If you don't know his work, legalinsurrection.com, terrific. Terrific. And he has a series of projects talking about going after DEI, bigotry in the classroom. And he is right now engaged in a lawsuit against the state of New York. So I was able to speak to him and we recorded the interview. But I have never in the live streaming taken the recording and played it here. So we're going to give this a go. And I'm only hoping it's going to work out. I do. I hope beyond hope, beyond hope. And if not, we'll just talk about it. So that's the story. So we're back in 15 seconds to the radio side. I'm going to put this together and we're going to go from there. Glad you're here. And don't forget to subscribe, whether you're watching on Rumble or YouTube. Make sure you follow on Twitter. And if you're on Facebook, screw you, Mark Zuckerberg. Every time. The work that William Jacobson does at Legal Insurrection, legalinsurrection.com, I've been following for years. Tony Katz today. Always a pleasure to be with you guys. Find everything I do over at tonykatz.com. And I follow it because there's a level of intellectualism that's happening that's worthwhile. There's also stories covered there that don't get covered anywhere else. They simply do not. But it is William Jacobson's push in exposing what DEI is doing in a whole host of places that really needs to be addressed. So when I got my emails, I get emails from them, from EPP, a project he has called the Equal Protection Project, about DEI and about New York, the state of New York and the STEP Act. I knew that this was a subject that wasn't getting enough play and needs to get more play. William Jacobson joins me right now. You know him from legalinsurrection.com, Cornell law professor. His work also includes the equalprotect.org, the Equal Protect Project. I should be clear, sir, that this has gotten some play. A series of websites have discussed this as this lawsuit has just broken. You're suing the state of New York, I believe, with the Pacific Legal Foundation. Talk to me about the basis of this lawsuit.
Yes, we're challenging what's called the STEP Act in New York, Science Technology Entry Program. It's actually a very good program. It serves each year about 11,000 7th to 12th graders to introduce them to science and technology. They take classes, or not really classes, but courses, programs at up to 56 colleges and universities in New York State. So the state pays the colleges to do programming for 7th to 12th graders to introduce them into science and technology. So far, so good. The problem with the program, which has actually been around for almost 40 years, is that it discriminates in its eligibility requirements on the basis of race. Right in the regulations for the statute passed by the Department of Education, if you are Black, Hispanic, or Native American, you are automatically eligible to apply. Remember, we're talking about high school and middle school students here. Automatically eligible. If you are not one of those categories, meaning you're Asian or you're white, or maybe there's some other category, you have to show economic hardship, which is a very high hurdle to get over. You basically have to show that your family lives at the poverty level. So if you're from a middle-class Asian family or an upper middle-class white family, you actually cannot even apply for this program. And that's discriminatory. We believe it's illegal. And on behalf of an Asian American parent, and 3 Asian American civic groups in New York State, we have filed a federal lawsuit in the Northern District of New York, challenging not the whole program, but challenging the discriminatory provisions of the program.
Right. So it's fascinating how this often happens, right? The program itself, you look at and you're like, that has a value. If we're talking about encouraging math, that's great, especially in a society, as we've seen, and you've discussed many times, sir, that you'll see groups like in California and other school districts do away with advanced math, do away with gifted and talented programs because it makes the other students feel bad, which is, of course, its own level of discrimination. But you're talking about here how DEI works as a discriminatory factor. Talk to me about, not only in this program, but in other programs that your group, equalprotect.org, has looked at, how DEI engages and actually promotes discrimination.
Well, remember, this program existed long before what we commonly now call diversity, equity, and inclusion, but the concepts were the same. The concept was that it's okay to discriminate against certain races to help other races to achieve some sort of balance. And that concept has been around for a long time. It's now expressed as diversity, equity, and inclusion, but this New York State program has been on the books for almost 40 years. And so we have challenged similar programs. It is a very common construct that you have different eligibility requirements where certain races, typically African American, Black, Hispanic, are automatically eligible for something, whereas people who are not that, who are not so-called BIPOC, have hurdles to jump over. And you can't have different standards for different students based on race. That's not lawful. But that's very common. And at equalprotect.org, we have challenged, I think, 20 of these programs. Before we filed this lawsuit, we actually challenged the programs at 7 medical schools in New York State who were implementing this STEP Act. The argument being, you can't take state money and say, oh, well, we're just going to administer it in a discriminatory manner because that's what the state requires. Well, no, you don't have to take the money. You don't have to have these programs, but you don't have the choice of taking the money and then discriminating. So we started by focusing on the colleges, got a lot of publicity, or I should say the medical schools, got a lot of publicity for that. And that has evolved into this federal lawsuit. And that's typical of what we do. We want to take down the systemic racism that has been injected into our society through DEI. And that's what our goal is. And if we are successful here, and I think we should be, we will have impacted tens of thousands of students in New York State and 56 colleges and universities who will no longer be able to discriminate.
What's fascinating, I think, for a lot of people, talking to William Jacobson, Cornell law professor, the mind behind legalinsurrection.com and equalprotect.org, be sure to check it out and be a supporter, is that very often we see this bigotry, and I of course agree that DEI is bigotry in its foundational methodology, but people often view it as a black-white construct. But yet so many of these occasions involve Asian parents and Asian students. You talk about how Harvard doesn't allow admissions and basically states, we have enough of your kind. We want another kind. And so that this was Asian parents sue New York State over discriminatory student programs with help, of course, from your equal protection project, equalprotect.org. Does this ever connect with people in oh, wait a second, this isn't what we're told it is. This is something far more detrimental and my word, devious?
Well, one of the things that really jumps out at me in looking at these programs, and not just this program, programs at many colleges and universities, is these are entities that have enormous bureaucracies devoted supposedly to preventing discrimination on the basis of race. Yet they have programs that openly do that, and nobody says a word. How is it that nobody at the New York State Department of Education said, hey, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. Maybe we need to change the program? How is it that nobody at any of these 56 colleges and universities says, hey, we got this money, but it's going to require us to discriminate on the basis of race. And we have all these rules and these policies that say we shouldn't be doing it. But nobody apparently speaks up. This sort of thing has become normalized in our society. It's become worse with the advent of DEI and critical race theory, but it's been around for a while that certain types of discrimination have become normalized. And it's not the discrimination we hear about. It's not white supremacy. These are programs that discriminate against people on the basis of race who frequently are Asian and frequently are white. And I think as a society, we have to say enough already. And I think New York State Department of Education needs to do its own internal investigation as to how nobody ever spoke up about this. Or maybe they did. And that would in some ways be worse if someone spoke up internally and it was chosen to be ignored.
I'm going to turn a half a step here, and people should go to equalprotect.org and learn more about this and support what it is that you're doing, and more of this bigotry that we're seeing in terms of the anti-Semitism on college campuses. This was you from legalinsurrection.com. Window dressing. Day after congressional letter threatening funding, Cornell condemns student social media post that, quote, Zionists must die. And for the sake of definitions, a Zionist is somebody who believes that Israel has the right to exist and right to defend itself. And I state as freely as the day is long, I'm a Zionist. So this from your university, how did this come about, and how is it being taken on the campus?
Everybody remembers that congressional hearing with the presidents of Harvard, who's now gone, UPenn, who's now gone, MIT, who seems to be hanging in there, where they were just unable in any coherent manner to condemn or describe the actions of students on their campuses, which I think are fairly characterized as anti-Semitic. And they really flummoxed it. Cornell's president was not at that hearing. Maybe she'll be at a future one, I have no idea. But Cornell came under a lot of heat because of things that happened at our campus. A well-known professor giving a speech to a large gathering just off campus, which included a lot of students, where he said he felt exhilarated on October 7th when he heard of the Hamas attack. A student who threatened to shoot up the kosher dining hall and is now in federal custody. I mean, he's been criminally charged. And protests, students chanting for an intifada, which was the bloody suicide bombing campaign against Israel. So we have all this stuff going on, and Cornell came under a very big spotlight, even though the president wasn't at that hearing. Well, what happened is congressional committee, I think it was Ways and Means, sent subpoenas and sent a letter to 4 universities, the 3 who were at the hearing, plus Cornell. So Cornell, according to Congress, has been elevated into this infamous elite group with MIT, UPenn, and Harvard as something that's warranting congressional scrutiny. And the letter basically said, we're investigating you. Here's the records that we want. By the way, you are receiving federal funding. You're required to comply with federal anti-discrimination laws, and you are a 501c3, a tax-exempt entity. And it's not clear to us that you're complying with the requirements that, to get that funding and to maintain that status, which of course is like, a death threat, practically a corporate death threat. If you lose your tax-exempt status as a university, you're gone. And what the letter said is that, we are concerned that you have not forcefully condemned, anti-Semitic rhetoric on your campuses. That letter comes out. The next day, I and the rest of the campus get a mass email blast from the president of Cornell University condemning what some student, unidentified student, but I believe it is a student, and I think I know who the person is because it's been circulating, but condemning the statement of this person. And to me, that just sounds like window dressing. You get a letter from Congress putting in issue your 501c3, your nonprofit status, putting in issue your federal funding, telling you you've got to start condemning what may be First Amendment protected speech, but which creates a hostile atmosphere on campus. And all of a sudden, this administration, which has been received enormous criticism for being lackadaisical in how it's responding. All of a sudden, within 24 hours, there's a mass email blast to the whole campus condemning this statement. Now, the statement, as far as I can tell, was not made on campus. The statement was made on some student's personal, I think it was Instagram account. And, so it seems like window dressing that Cornell, their feet are being put to the fire by Congress. And now all of a sudden they're going to be hyper vigilant, so much that they almost become internet hall monitors of what students are doing. And I think that raises, real questions and real concerns. I obviously don't approve of that statement by the student, but the Cornell reaction struck me as window dressing.
Well, the other part of the reaction, while we've got about 60 seconds left, William Jacobson, Cornell law professor at legalinsurrection.com, is the idea that it took Congress to act to get Cornell to act. But has anything on the campus changed? Have students started standing up to the bigotry of the anti-Semites? Have the anti-Semites grown in popularity or in numbers or in support? Has the campus gone in one direction or another?
Well, I was off campus this fall. I was on sabbatical, but I obviously hear from people what's going on. And I think it's viewed as by the students, by the Jewish students, as a fairly toxic environment. Can't say whether it's gotten better or worse. We've been on break for the last few weeks, the entire campus. This thing with the congressional letter came out while we were on break, and the reaction. So I don't know that there's been much reaction, but I think it's fair to say that the Cornell administration seems flummoxed in how they're going to address this problem. And they obviously don't want to be the next Harvard, UPenn, or MIT, put in a congressional seat before in a hearing. But I think that's probably where they're heading. Not because I have inside info, I don't. But Cornell has a problem, and I'm not sure they're able to deal with it right now.
William Jacobson, Cornell law professor, legalinsurrection.com, and of course, equalprotect.org, equalprotect.org. Sir, always a pleasure to have you here. More is coming up. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Look at that. We made it work. Made it work like pros. We did that. Holy. I'm very impressed. I am very impressed. We got that done. I had recorded it. And then we played it. Look at that. Top of the world, Ma. Top of the world. And according to producer Carl and Sarah, it sounded all right. It sounded like it was something that belonged. Really a big fan of Legal Insurrection. Really a big fan of of William Jacobson. Let's get a drink, and don't forget to subscribe. Here, I'll remind you right now. So we'll be back in just a minute, and then we'll have a break. Just as a matter of understanding, in case some people are late joining, first of all, glad you're here. Don't forget to subscribe there on YouTube or on Rumble. Find everything at TonyKatz.com. You will find all of it over there at TonyKatz.com. You can see it right there. Right there. We do this in conjunction with the radio show. So we base out of Indianapolis on 93.1 FM WIBC. We're heard in Muncie, Indiana. We're heard in Bloomington, Indiana. Then weekends, the show is edited up by producer Carl and producer Jason and airs in St. Louis. It airs in Atlanta, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and throughout Indiana. The plan is a good growth plan. I hope to talk more about that in the next couple weeks. But we're really want to build this out. And I know a lot of people stream their stuff. And so we're like, can you do it differently? Can you do it better? And I the only thing I was able to come to is that you could do it more honest. You know, maybe this will never have as a video, as a live stream, the level of polish some others have, but it'll be damn fun. So we're coming back to the radio show right now. We will go from there. You ready? Let's do the thing. So in the pre-market, the Dow was up massive, and it's still that way. Right now, the Dow is up 217, and the NASDAQ is up 139. Pretty interesting that we're seeing this kind of movement, because there's definitely been some rough spots this week. And one of the other things we're seeing is interest rates started to creep back up because the 10-year Treasury had started to come back up. And if the 10-year Treasury, which is the benchmark by which you determine 30-year fixed mortgage rates, was going up, you'll see higher mortgage rates. Right now at 4.167. Well, we were trending under 4%, which would have you those mortgage rates in the 6.5, 7s. We're going to see them go up. But while they were lower, we finally started seeing people pushing to get not only a mortgage to purchase a house, but there was an uptick in refis. And you're like, people refi at 6.5%? If you bought at 7 3/4, you bet your butt you did. And they paid the fees and everything else to do it because they saw it over the long run as something of value. Now, if the rates start ticking back up, well, all bets are off. All bets are off. And then there's another problem in real estate, which has to do with the fact that still, and you know this where you are, if you have information, Tony@TonyKatz.com, email it to me or leave it in the comments as we do the live streaming, or on X at Tony Katz. Go to TonyKatz.com. The inventory is not there. The inventory is absolutely not there. And that's going to lead to continued high prices. So this is seems to be a good ending for the week on the markets. We'll see. I'm Tony Katz. We will absolutely see how the markets go. In the meantime, we're going to take a quick break, guys. And from there, we'll get into hour two. That's right. We got another hour to go. So happy to keep you company wherever you are. Don't forget to subscribe wherever it is you're at. Just kick back, relax. Everything's going to be quite all right. Super, super groovy is what we got. I was actually looking for. Now, see, I thought I had ads. Well, not ads, just these things to play. That I don't know where they are. Did I get rid of them? Of course I did. Of course still learning, guys. Still learning every step of the way. Keep it here. Welcome back, guys. Good to be with you. This is the William Heaven Hill, the 17 year, which was presented to me yesterday, Heaven Hill Distillery. I cannot wait to open this somewhere, depending on who you talk to, between $800 and $1,300 bottle. You guys know that in addition to the radio work that I do, I host a show called Eat, Drink, Smoke. It's right there. Cigar and Bourbon Review Show, 65 radio stations across the country. It's heard weekends. And then you can find everything at eatdrinksmokeshow.com. And we have experimented with some live events. And the last one we did about the Old Forester 2021 birthday bourbon. And then everybody got some birthday bourbon. I had a studio audience, and it went great. And we're bringing back 4 of them this year. We're going to be doing 4 live events this year with Eat, Drink, Smoke in Indianapolis with cigars and with food and with everything else. And we are cracking open a bottle of the 2022 birthday bourbon. I have a bottle of Elmer T. Lee that I plan on opening. I have some great Willet bottles that need to be opened. I don't believe in saving anything. I believe in drinking it. And this, the 120 proof 17 year William Heaven Hill, this is getting opened. So we only sell a limited amount of tickets to be part of the event, and then we do a whole live broadcast, the whole show. The cameras are out, and it's crazy. And so I don't know how many shots, how many like 1 ounce pours can you get out of this? I don't know. Does it say how many? I've never actually checked. I should know. It's 750 milliliters, right? I knew it's a fifth. I know that, but I don't make me do math, and it's all metric, and it frightens me, and it's Canadian. Who wants that? But that's how many tickets that we'll have available, and everybody gets a little love right here. So this is, look at it. Look at that. Oh, it's pretty. I'm ready. I am ready. We're back to the show. Make sure you subscribe wherever you are, whether it's YouTube or Rumble, on the Twitter X. If you're watching on LinkedIn, what's up? Good to be with you. Thanks for being here. I'll make sure I post something businessy. Right? You want to talk about the credit card business? Taking over the family credit card processing business has been a very unique thing over the last couple of months. I was out, and they pulled me back in. For family, you do what you do. You do what you do. Let's get back to the show. Right now, it's about Nikki Haley. And the radio show is coming back right now, and we'll join them. And yes, there's a Nikki Haley story worth noting here. I'll get to it. Nikki Haley is doing some of the best campaigning of her life over the past 2 days. I don't know what took her so dang long. I have no idea why she waited so long. Absolutely no clue. Haley has sounded better than ever because she's doing 2 things. And this is not me campaigning for Nikki Haley, not by the longest of shots. I've been clear. I'm a DeSantis guy. I know. That came and went. Do you believe in miracles? This is not the 1980 Olympics. Good Lord. Nikki Haley is doing things like this.
Trump says things. Americans aren't stupid to just believe what he says. The reality is, who lost the House for us? Who lost the Senate? Who lost the White House? Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump. Nikki Haley will win every single one of those back for us. Trump says things. Americans aren't.
Sorry, I didn't mean to loop it there. Tony Katz today. What is going on? Find everything at TonyKatz.com. If you would, 833-468-8669, 833-GOT-TONY. I didn't say you agreed with her. That is not my argument, not why I bring this up. I am saying that as a matter of a talking point, that is fantastic. Trump cost you this, Trump cost you that, Trump cost you the other. I'll get it back for you. It's actually a Trumpian thing to do. It's actually a traditionally political thing to do. And what is interesting about this, as she's campaigning in New Hampshire, is that it is proactive. It's proactive. And we should take a look at those polling numbers. Sarah, if you would grab the polling numbers from Real Clear Politics, nationally, New Hampshire and South Carolina, and then create the graphics for those, and I'll grab them. I'd appreciate that. Thank you. It's proactive. And then something else happened. A town hall on CNN. Remember, she refused to debate, and ABC got hosed. They were supposed to host the debate before New Hampshire, and she's like, oh, "Look, I'm not just debating Ron DeSantis here. That's cuckoo crazy. That's nutty. I've already done that 5 times. I'm debating Trump, or I'm not debating at all or in any way." And I think that she was right about that. I think it was a strong move for her politically, and I think it put Ron DeSantis in an even worse place because he looks weak. He can't make the debate happen. He's not enough to debate. She doesn't have to bother with him. She wants the big guy. Again, very, very good. But let me give you this right here. This Nikki Haley at this CNN town hall.
But this is the similarities you're seeing with Trump and Biden. Neither one of them will debate their opponents. And I think it's very telling that we're dealing with more of the same where you've got these incumbent presidents that think they don't have to show you the differences between them and their opponents. I think that's the problem. I think that's exactly why we need new generational leaders. This election's very much going to be, are we getting more of the same, or do we want to go in a new direction? More of the same being that 70% of Americans have said they don't want a rematch between Trump and Biden. The majority of Americans have very high disapproval numbers for both Trump and Biden. Trump and Biden both spent trillions of dollars that put us in debt that our kids are never going to forgive either one of them for. You look at the fact that we want to get them focused, but right now, do we really want to have 2 80-year-olds running for president when we've got...
Now, some people are going to look at that last line. Do we really want 2 80-year-olds running for president? And they'll think, oh, man, strong hit from Nikki Haley. Again, that's not it. Did you notice how slow she was speaking? Was anybody going to notice that her approach was far different than the debate when she was going 20 miles a minute, trying to get 5 minutes of content in a 2-minute segment, which is usually discussed by putting 5 pounds of you-know-what in a 2-pound sack. Usually it's a 3-pound sack. It doesn't matter. There are sacks, and then there's the stuff you fill it with. The point is, she slowed down. She slowed down. She hit a solid talking point about, do you want these 2 80-year-olds? And she's doing it with calmness. Somebody got to her. Somebody looked her in the eye and said, Nikki, you look like a freak and you sound like a freak because you're speaking so quickly that it's forcing your face into contortions that nobody wants. Oh, and nobody can follow you because you're talking so quickly. Calm down. Here, this is a Quaalude. Now, I'm not saying that I have any proof whatsoever that Nikki Haley is on a lewd. I am not saying that. Please, lawsuits. I am not saying that. I'm saying someone told her to calm down, and she did. Picture her in the debate and go back and listen again.
But this is the similarities you're seeing with Trump and Biden. Neither one of them will debate their opponents. And I think it's very telling that we're dealing with more of the same where you've got these incumbent presidents that think they don't have to show you the differences between them and their opponents.
That sounds like somebody who's much more in charge of their own life, of their situation, has total control of their surroundings, has total control of the facts, and has the calmness and the demeanor to take the next steps. It's good. It's good, and it's valuable, and it's important, and it is noted. The problem for her is that it's 3 days before a primary. What the hell is that going to do you? 3 days before a primary. And you think that this is going to create value? This is not. This is you have a remarkable road to climb. It's brutal. Do you really think you're prepared to get that going? Let's take a look. Let's take a look at two primaries, shall we? Or let's take a look at a primary and a national. Let's take a look at what's going on in New Hampshire, and let's take a look at what's going on nationally. Because within this, we're going to get an idea of what it is that Nikki Haley has in front of her. And let me say for the record that we're talking about something that is quite nearly insurmountable. It is nuts. We take a look at New Hampshire, and you realize that Nikki Haley has closed the gap. In one of the more recent polls, she was 7 points behind. In the latest, she is, 17 points behind? This is the Boston Globe Suffolk poll. It is Trump 52, Haley 35, DeSantis 6. Oh, 6. We said from the beginning, he's skipping New Hampshire, going right to South Carolina, but that's not a good number. Trump 52, Haley 35. You go down to where the CNN University of New Hampshire poll is, it was 39-32. That put her within 7 single digits. That's good stuff. It has been double digits for the 3 polls past that, putting the Real Clear Politics average, Trump having a spread of 13.5. Trump is ahead 13.5%. And you'll note that in the polling in Iowa, it was accurate about Trump, and Haley, you can argue, underperformed, right? The polling had Trump at 52.5, and he got 51%. That's expectation. That's performing, which means the polling's accurate. But Haley only got 19%, and she was at 20 some odd percent. She underperformed. Underperforming might be a serious problem. Underperforming going to be a serious issue in New Hampshire for Nikki Haley. But maybe none of it matters, because when you take a look at the national, Trump is at 70 freaking 2. Look at the numbers. The Messenger Harris X poll, Trump 72, Haley 13, DeSantis 7. And if you don't like that, you're like, oh, who's going to believe that? Economist YouGov has Trump at 68. CBS News has Trump at 69. Nice. Morning Consult has Trump at 69. You got to go down to the Reuters Ipsos poll, which was January 3rd to January 9th, to find Trump 49, Haley 12, DeSantis 11. So even that poll, he's up by 37. In the last poll, the Messenger Harris X poll, he's up by 59. That's nationally. Then how the national sees it. Is this the all writing on the wall? We're just wasting time here. Nothing's going to beat Trump at all. I think that is about 89% true. Normally, I wouldn't put the odds that bad for him. I'd be 99%, right? You would leave the possibility that something crazy could happen. There's alien abduction. You don't know. But here, you're dealing with a couple of indictments. You have the possibility for things to go wrong. That possibility is keeping Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis around. I believe that. I think you do too. But Haley's move right now, it fascinates. Not only is she hitting the right tone, and then there was this. Did you hear her talking about banning TikTok?
So I will always fight for freedom of speech. What I was referring to when it comes to our tech companies is there is a responsibility that our social media companies have. What I think they should do is they should show us their algorithms. They should be completely transparent so that you know why they push what they push, why you see what you see, all of that. That's a business transparency situation. When it comes to disclosing who you are, I'm not saying that Americans have to disclose their name. What I'm saying is you have millions of foreign bots where there are no people behind them. When I was at the United Nations, Russia, China, and Iran knew and said it was the cheapest form of warfare. There are millions of bots that are spreading disinformation, that are sowing division in our country, and they're doing this to spread harmful things to our younger teenagers. And what I'm saying is those social media companies have to do something with the foreign bots. I will always fight for Americans' freedom of speech, but I am not going to fight for Russians and Iranians and Chinese freedom of speech. And that's what's happening. That's the part we have to take.
Now you understand that she's changed her message on this. She slowed down. She cleaned it up. She engaged some focus because she got knocked around because she first said you have to show your ID. She meant Americans. She has cleaned this up. This message, I think, does work. And I certainly think it works with suburban soccer moms and those who see their kids on social media and getting abused by social media and engaging the FOMO, the fear of missing out, and what happens there. I think that it works. It is weird that now suddenly she has found a couple of messages that work, well cleaned up, a couple of talking points, like Trump's responsible for losing the House, Senate, and the White House. Trump's responsible. You know, do you really want to see two 80-year-old men fighting for a job? We need something new. Though she's been workshopping this, now all of a sudden it's working. That's too little, too late. That's going to connect and start propelling forward. I think it could have. I think Ron DeSantis would have benefited from some more of that type of talking point, and then moving into his record. But 72, Trump International is up 72. That's insane. I don't know how one overcomes it. If Nikki Haley does not overperform in New Hampshire, even though it's South Carolina and it's her state, the writing is more and more on the wall. Speaking of Trump, I'm going to take the break first. Did you hear Don Jr. talking about Tucker Carlson? You tell me. I'll share it with you coming up. Keep it right here. I'm Tony Katz. So we bring it back. I don't know who this is. Tyler saying DEI is not bigotry. Teach your kids not to be racist and the school won't have to. Well, problem is the school teaches bigotry because that's what DEI is. It's what it is. We're having a debate here. We have got umpteen pieces of proof on the division that it sows. It causes division everywhere. It teaches kids to hate themselves and to hate others. It teaches oppressed oppressor. It is all part of Marxism and going back to the 99% and the 1% that Obama talked about and the proletariat and the bourgeoisie. This is unserious, Tyler. Unserious on your part. I've got this. I don't know. Should I wait a little bit longer? Because I got to talk about the socialist from Indianapolis that we've been dealing with all day. Just nutty. Absolutely nutty. Going after a publicly stating a pizzeria disagrees with my position, so let's end them. Well, basically, I'll never eat there again. They disagree with you. Why are you attacking anybody? You're a public official. You're not a private citizen. You're not the radio guy. And I don't say, oh, I'm never eating there. You disagree with me. Okay, is the food good? Because I came for the food. It's gotten to a fever pitch. So I want to do that story as well. I don't know when I'm going to do it. When should I do it? All right, I'll do it now. So this was an interview on Newsmax with Donald Trump Jr. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Great to be here. Find everything at TonyKatz.com. And Trump Jr. was talking about possible vice presidential candidates. Listen.
I would do whatever I could to make sure it wasn't Nikki Haley, but like a Ron DeSantis, could I see? You're never going to rule out someone that is, a leading contender. It doesn't mean that's who you go with. I could see other people that would be great. I'd love to see, a J.D. Vance. I'd love to see a Tucker Carlson. I'd love to see, people who are just principally, in alignment as well as like aggressive. You actually need a fighter. The Republicans in Washington, D.C. are weak. You can have the House, the Senate, and they'll still roll over. It doesn't
Don,
matter.
Is your dad serious about Tucker Carlson? Are those rumors serious?
I would imagine, listen, that's clearly it would be on the table, right? I mean, they're very friendly. I think they agree on virtually all of these things. They certainly agree on stopping the never-ending wars. And so, I would love to see that happen. And, that would certainly be a contender.
There was so much in that. First, look, I have nothing against Donald Trump Jr. I've never met the dude. It's just, I know what he's going to say. I know what's going to happen. I know his purpose. And so for me, it's not as interesting of a listen. But to bring up DeSantis and Tucker Carlson as vice presidential possibilities, you see the J.D. Vance stuff, I hear that from my people. The senator from Ohio, I believe that's possible. I believe that the Elise Stefanik conversation, the representative from New York, I believe that is possible. Ron DeSantis? Well, first, you're not allowed to have both the president and the vice president from the same state. I don't, if I understand the rules right, you can't do that. But neither here nor there. Ron DeSanctimonious? I don't think Ron's taking that gig. I think Ron, if he gets out of this race and the numbers would suggest such a thing, he'll say, you know what? I'm young. Take a look at his watch. Take a look at it right there and be like, I'm young. I'm good. Thanks. I just don't need to be. I just don't need that. Tucker Carlson. I argue only a couple things. I agree with Tucker on some things. I disagree with Tucker on other things. Very few people in the country politically can be seen as conversation starters. Conversation responders, that's a dime a dozen. You got a lot of people out there who will be the talking head pundit. That's easy. Start the conversation. That's tough. That's rare. That ain't easy. And he does it. And he's got everything set up and the whole network, and he's going to make crazy, stupid money. The other side of that conversation is he has crazy, stupid money. The allure of the vice presidency, I don't know if you turn that away. Let me tell you, if I got asked to be vice president in 4 seconds, because I could smoke cigars in the observatory like nobody's business. Oh, I would bring Cigar Sexy back to DC. It would be more than just Shelley's back room. I could not wait. I would be an awesome I would be such a good vice president that I would look at the next guy running and be like, I want to do it again. I mean, don't get me wrong. I should be honest. I would have a hard time not being the guy. I'd have a super hard time with it. It would eat at me in a way. It's like the people, you see people and they live on the water, whether it's a canal or a lake, or they live on the water. And then there's a street and then people live on the other side and they don't live on the water. I don't know how they do that. How do you do that without going absolutely crazy every single day? That's how it feels as vice president. But maybe Air Force Two would kind of ease the blow. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be Tucker. This is Tony Katz today. I think that's the thing about the real estate, the thing about the houses. Every time I drive through one of those neighborhoods, I'm like, I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they function. I don't know how I just have no clue. It would burn my soul, my entire soul. I would not have any functionability whatsoever. I could not do it. By the way, to answer a text question. So the watch today, weirdly enough, so far in the live streams, I am all there with the Bulivas. All right, so I do have some other watches, and I'll get them. This is a very cool. This is called the parking meter, and so this is a remake of a watch that they offered up in the 70s, and they have some. You can find some of those available on eBay and other places, somewhere between $4,000 and $5,000. This was not as much. I thought that the remake was attractive, and what I dig is it's just got the right amount of curve. Not totally, just it fits comfortably. And this strap is not the original strap. So I actually got this on eBay. This is an aftermarket, but it's leather. It's a cool sporty look. I dig it. The strap that comes with it is a brown strap, and that blue and that brown is a nice look. But if you look at it, it looks like a parking meter. And that's what they call it. It's pretty great. I just realized I don't think the data's right. I don't think it's right. Hold on a second. See, that's right. I put on glasses. I don't know when that. No, the date. No, it's not. I'm off by a day. So it thinks it's yesterday. And then of course the crown being on top, and so I dig it. I got to admit, of everything I own, this is absolutely one of my favorite. When do we think the Bulova sponsorship is coming? Producer Carl, when do we get Bulova watch as a full sponsor and we start having a Tony Katz today watch? Yes, Carl's going to reach out right away. That'd be that. And if they're busy, if the line's busy, reach out to Patek Philippe. Let's get that. Let's get that handled. I was looking for this Andre Carson piece, the congressman from Indianapolis. You want to talk about just coming clean as a Jew hater. Holy mackerel. I've got that story right here. And I've got a bunch of other things to get to. I think I have some more audio for you as well. Oh, Merrick Garland in the speedy trial. Oh, Merrick Garland in the speedy trial. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot that. I apologize. I will get to that. I'll do a little bit of work here. There we go. I'll take a couple of screenshots right here. Boom, boom, boom. Just because if I'm going to do this Andre Carson story, we got to cover all the Jew hatred. And Andre Carson is near top of that list. So let me get that for you right here. Just printing this off, I should say. Screenshot. See, you heard it right there. Just screenshotting that right there. All right, let me get this stuff up. So as we've discussed the Houthi rebels and we've discussed the growing anti-Semitism on college campuses, the bigotry on college campuses, this came down the road. This story about Congressman Andre Carson, Tony Katz today. Andre Carson represents Indianapolis. He represents the 7th District. He represents just south of where I live. But for my main station, my flagship, WIBC, he's that member of Congress. So I have had to deal with his bigotry and his very, very poor judgment for years, as long as I've been in Indianapolis, which has been nearly a decade now. His shameful attitude, his embarrassment, so much so that I have had serious and loud disagreements with the so-called Jewish community of Indianapolis. And I say so-called because sometimes you just don't see any level of activity. Certainly when you have got a guy who's showing up to events with people on the terrorist watch list, people who call Rashida Tlaib his sister, people who admit to being friends with and proud to be friends with Louis Farrakhan. You're supposed to say something. You're supposed to say that this is not okay. This is despicable. And what did I have in Indianapolis? Rabbis and others, Jews, who supported him, including financially, in his re-elections. Andre Carson is a guy who only got into office because his grandmother was Julia Carson, former member of Congress. It's a family business. There is no legislation that you can point to from Andre Carson that makes you say, my gosh, this is a good man right here with a good head on his shoulders. There is no action from Andre Carson that can make you say the same. None. And you can say that about Republicans. I'm saying it about Andre Carson. But Andre Carson is the guy doing this from the Washington Free Beacon. House Dems share stage with anti-Semites and Holocaust deniers at a March for Gaza rally. It's Congressman Andre Carson who has been very, very clear in his support for Hamas and his disgust for Israel, in joining Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib in their very, very aggressive Jew hate. Amongst those who spoke at the event were those happy, quote unquote, about Hamas's terrorist attack. Someone who claimed, quote, Hitler never intended to mass destroy the Jews, unquote. And this is as it's reported by Chuck Ross from the Free Beacon. And another who has attended Holocaust denial events with former Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. That's Andre Carson. The guy has terrible judgment. That's how I used to describe it. So much so that years ago, I don't know if it ever got written. Sarah, look this up. It was the Daily Beast that did an interview with me. I believe the interviewer, the reporter, was Tim Mack, M-A-K. I remember the conversation. I don't remember if it ever got published. We were talking about Andre Carson. He wanted to talk to me about Andre Carson. I was discussing my position. And what he was desperate to do was to try and get me on the record to say, it's just because he's Muslim, isn't it? Why should we discuss the bigotry and the bad judgment of Andre Carson, who befriends and supports Louis Farrakhan, that Jew-hating, white-hating, woman-hating bigot? Why in the world should we discuss him when we can discuss the fact that you've just got a problem with Muslims, Tony Katz? That was Tim Mack trying to say that about me. I would not fall for that at all. I've done this for a while. I'm not buying into the crazy. But I always referred to Andre Carson as a guy who had terrible judgment. Not anymore. Now I refer to Andre Carson as another Jew-hating bigot. He is what he is. And Indianapolis has to do better. But then again, so do those towns in Minnesota that vote for Ilhan Omar. So does Dearborn. Or those areas that vote for Rashida Tlaib. You have to demand better. If it was really about criticizing Israeli policy, well, okay, go right ahead. Knock yourself out. If you are on stage with somebody who denies the Holocaust, well then, that's saying something. I give you my second true story, the craziest of the true stories. When I lived in California, there was a Republican club. Oh my God. You want to hear crazy, amongst the craziest stories that I've ever come across. And the guy who ran the club was named David. Small in stature, big in personality. Big in personality. And he ran this club. And the club had parties, and I'd gone to them. I had talked to him. We never hung out. We never had drinks or anything like that. And then one day, it comes out that he's a Holocaust denier. What the heck? The last thing I ever sent this dude, except for, hey, what's the address of the place, was, what is this? Because it was a rumor. I'm not a rumor guy. I want to know, you know, what's going on. I certainly never heard from him again. Turns out while his name was David, he had used a different last name. This guy had been on Phil Donahue back in the day. He was a Holocaust denier. Like, full on, no question. You could actually look, David Cole. I think, was he David Stein back in the day? I don't recall. It was the craziest thing to have witnessed. And people are like, what in the world is this? And I don't know if he ever spoke to anybody. I don't know whatever came of the dude. Absolutely not. I have no clue. Why in the world were you a part of this group engaged in these things? And then when people found out, it was an immediate, get out of here with this crazy. It proved to me that when presented with bigotry, rational people, Republicans, conservatives would be like, yeah, that's not for me. Thank you. I didn't know that about you. I'll take a step out. Very often you'll see the political left see that and they'll be like, see, it's proof. No. Ooh, I'll put you in. I don't know. How big is my arm? How big of arm's length can I put you at? Crazy. Now, if I had known that about him and then was still his friend, still supported him, still, looked at his works, I think that would put me in the category of Andre Carson. You see, sometimes you learn something about somebody that you didn't know. It's what you do next. It is that part of the association. And I always stated that Andre Carson was a guy who had bad judgment. Now it's more than just bad judgment. It's more than bad judgment because Andre Carson clearly, very clearly, without question and without reservation, has not just a problem with Israel, has a problem with Jews. This brings us to another story. The story of how anti-Israel student groups are threatening no business as usual at MIT until Israel is eradicated. Again, from the Free Beacon, which when it comes to following these Ivy League lowlifes, they have done excellent work. This is MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. They, according to the story, the Jewish students will be greeted by an anti-Israel student group that is threatening to shut down business as usual at MIT until the Jewish state is no more. They're called the MIT Coalition Against Apartheid. I thought you had to be smart to get into MIT. This is what they say. This is how they write it. I'm reading it right here. When we return next semester, we will be even stronger and even bigger to make sure that there is no business as usual at MIT until Palestine is free from the river to the sea. Now, this is the conversation. You can call for genocide proactively on a college campus. That's not a criticism of Israeli policy. Free Palestine in and of itself is a statement as a call for genocide, and from the river to the sea is a call to get rid of all the Jews, get rid of Israel. It's a call to genocide. So first, to the students at MIT, listen, I'm not on the air in Massachusetts, but I'm more than happy to broadcast from the campus at MIT and help you get to class. If it means things are going to get a little bit rough and tumble, okay. All right. I say that to the students of Indiana University or of Purdue University, because I'm an Indiana guy. Butler, Ball State. Sure. Need some help? Need a friend? I'm in. Because the choice is you or them, and I choose you. Me, I choose you. I think you should choose you. But this is exactly what it is we're looking at. This is the bigotry that we are seeing. And this is what Andre Carson is helping to foment. Members of Congress are helping to build this hate that is now as prevalent as the day is long. And what kills me is that here in Indianapolis, well, the people of Indianapolis have not shown a willingness to change how they vote. They have not shown a willingness to say, this just isn't acceptable. As a matter of fact, outside of what I do on my 2 radio shows, nobody is saying a word. No one says a word. There are no articles. There are no interviews. You have Andre Carson showing up at a rally with people who deny the Holocaust. And when he comes back to town, there will not be one reporter in Indianapolis who puts a microphone in this guy's face and says, why are you showing up with Holocaust deniers? But you better believe that every Republican candidate for governor or for Congress is going to be asked if they repudiate white supremacy. Every single one of them. Every one of them. This is a great example of how low national media and other media are. How the level of double standard to which they hold. He can show up with Holocaust deniers, Congressman Andre Carson, and literally nothing will happen to him. He gets to walk down the street without a single care in the world. He's there with Holocaust deniers, and what the people in media will say is,
okay, people, move along. There's nothing to see here. Okay, people, move along.
that's what they're going to do.
Nothing to see here.
That's what they're going to do. But if you, as a conservative, think of running for office, you will be asked to denounce white supremacy every second, and then denounce Donald Trump for white supremacy, even though he's not a white supremacist. You will be asked to do this time and again and again and again and again, which is why when you see politicos not buy into this, but tell reporters to shut it, you should be supportive of those people, because the reporter is not interested in the story. The reporter is not interested in the honesty. The reporter is not interested in the questioning, nor upholding a standard, period. The reporter is engaged in pushing agenda and narrative, and that's not reporting. That is almost as despicable as showing up on stage with a Holocaust denier and then being willing to do it again, which you got to assume Andre Carson is. All right, maybe pushing narrative is worse than showing up with a Holocaust denier, because that could happen by accident. But pushing narrative, you know you're doing on purpose. So switch that. But it'll keep happening just like this. Despicably just like this. Indianapolis has to change who they vote for. And so do the people in Minnesota and in the 14th District of New York with Ocasio-Cortez. They will take the very worst, because the truth is, they've either been told you have to vote for the Democrat or you're a traitor, or they agree. And I am always amazed at the people who didn't know exactly how much Jew hatred and bigotry is out there. It isn't more than you think. It is sadly exactly as much as you think. I'm Tony Katz. We are back, guys. So got a little bit more to go, and then we'll be done with our broadcast day. This is we're close. I think we're close to what the show is and what the show needs to be. We're almost there to it. And as I was saying earlier, it's sometimes there's nothing new under the sun. And what kind of show do you want to do when you're streaming it? And the answer is I'm doing the radio show that I do, and I don't want to change any part of that. So I don't think we become the most produced show. I mean, my God, look at my backdrop. It's cables and lights and madness. I think we're okay with this and just being a touch raw. I think that's the differentiator. I actually don't think it's anything else. So I think this is it. And there was a question. Hold on a second. I see a Sarah. There's a question going on. Boom. There it is. Well, okay. I'm going to answer a question about mortgages. I don't know how to answer that question. I got to do it later. I don't know how to answer that, Sarah. I'm going to have to do it later. Over at TonyKatz.com, we've got a chat room. But some people are on Rumble, and there's a chat. And then some people who are on YouTube or Facebook, I see those questions. Like I get them immediately. Like Freddie hates winter. Like I've got that right there, and I can pull it up. So ask your questions, leave your questions. We'll be good to go. I know we've started, but I was looking for something and now I can't find it. It's driving me crazy. Here it is. There's a shortage of ADHD drugs. And we have been discussing, as you have, well, if you rely on China for everything, you will create a situation by which you have access issues. China doesn't design drugs. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. China manufactures. China doesn't know how to make anything, really. They steal and then they manufacture. But now you have people really having to search for prescriptions. You've got the divisional chief of developmental behavioral pediatrics from the Children's Hospital in Orlando telling United Press there that the strain on patients and families is real. And you say to me, yeah, it's an ADHD drug, so somebody's going to be, just a little bit on edge. If you don't want to call that serious, you're more than welcome to pick the drug that's serious, the one that keeps your mom alive, and then picture it as that drug. We have not, as a nation, done enough to move the manufacturing back to the United States like we need to, or to nations that are friendly because you want to now have it expanded and multifaceted supply chain. This is happening, and it will affect us all. This is Tony Katz today. With that, guys, can't thank you enough for being here. Appreciate that you're here and you're a part of the show. We're close. We're close. So we're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep streaming. We're going to keep figuring it out. Glad to see you all here. Don't forget to subscribe wherever it is you are, unless you're on Facebook. I mean, you can like it, the page on Facebook, Tony Katz Radio, but Mark Zuckerberg, screw him. Don't have a crappy platform that tries to silence people. Just don't do that. And don't make everything pay for play. I mean, it's your business. You can do what you want, but don't ask me to respect it. I shan't. That's right. I said shan't. Guys, I appreciate you. I will catch you on Monday. Take care.